are you? That's the way I used to open up my radio show many years ago, and I think it still works, so that's how we're going to start these podcasts, at least for now anyway. And at the end of the last show, I mentioned we were going to talk a little bit about Donald Trump. I wish I didn't have to, but this podcast wouldn't be by George if I didn't talk about Trump. Donald J. Trump is like one of those really bad car wrecks that you drive by. I covered lots of them as a news reporter, and there's something about a wreck that you drive by, you can't help but look, and sometimes after you do, you really wish you hadn't. I also tell people the election of Donald Trump was like stepping in dog poop. No matter how hard you try, and I believe there are people who are trying mightily, you can't seem to get it off your shoe. And no matter where you go, no matter what you do, you always have that reminder that you've stepped in dog poop. I mean, you can attend the royal wedding, and if you've stepped in dog poop, you're going to know it. And there's a pretty good chance the rest of the world knows it too. Now, here's the thing about Donald Trump. I could go on for hours about the things I don't like about this guy, but it basically boils down to one thing. He's a liar. And now he's going to run for re-election in 2020. If he doesn't get indicted or impeached first, and he's going to be using his most obvious attribute to try and get it done. His lies aren't particularly good, but they are told time and time again by himself and his followers. It's kind of like some form of self-hypnosis. The more they say these things, the more they believe it. His election campaign will boil down to two whoppers. The economy is booming because of him, and he's not nuts or a jerk. He's simply combative, and neither is true. In my lifetime, there were only 2 times the economy has boomed, and both times were when Democrats took over after the Republicans blew up the economy under both Ronald Reagan and George Bush. Now, Bill Clinton and Barack Obama were good for the economy. Donald Trump is not. In fact, the current economy has been on or about the same upward trajectory ever since Obama took office. Trump's tax cuts did benefit the hidden wealth of the rich, but certainly not the overall economy. The only improvement I've seen is that some Republican CEOs have decided to spend a little bit more of the billions of dollars in cash they've been sitting on, and that they refused to invest under 8 years of Obama because they were scared or because they didn't want to do anything that would benefit the president they so despised. Now, on this show, we're not going to talk about misstatements or manipulation of facts or alternate facts or truth that isn't truth. We're going to call those things lies. And it appears the national media is finally coming around to the same thing. From the Associated Press this morning, Dateline, New York. President Donald Trump has been accused of dishonesty, spreading falsehoods, misrepresenting facts, distorting news, passing on inaccuracies, and being loose with the truth. But does he lie? It's a loaded word, and some Trump critics believe major news organizations are too timid to use it. The Washington Post, which has documented more than 4,000 false or misleading claims by the president, declared for the first time last week that a Trump misstatement was a lie. Former Trump attorney Michael Cohen's plea deal provided undisputable evidence that Trump and his allies have been deliberately dishonest about hush money paid to porn star Stormy Daniels and Playboy model Karen McDougal. Post fact-checker Glenn Kessler wrote. The Post put Kessler's assessment on its front page, and it was the newspaper's most read story online. Not only was it the first time the Post said Trump had lied, it was the first time the newspaper used the word for any politician since Kessler began his fact-checking operation back in 2011. Many news organizations resist using the word because of the question of intent. Editors feel it's important to establish whether someone is spreading false information knowingly, intending to deceive, and it's hard to get inside a person's head. While Kessler's team has found 98 instances where Trump falsely claimed responsibility for the largest tax cut in U.S. history, the president may sincerely believe it, Kessler said. At the Associated Press, we believe it's better to say what the facts are, say what the person said, and let the audience make the decision whether or not it's an intentional lie, said John Denzwinski, the news operations standards coordinator and editor. Several readers told Kessler, in effect, that it's about time. One critic, Paul Blest of the website Splinter, wrote, "Can you imagine any other politician being held to such comically low standards? The Post's milestone represents an abject failure," he wrote. "It's sort of a cover-up for those in power when you don't call it a lie," said Jeff Cohen, a just-retired journalism professor and a producer of the documentary All Governments Lie, Truth, Deception, and the Spirit of I.F. Stone about the late journalist. He said journalists need to cut through the fog, and the word lie is an effective tool. Well, the article goes on, but you get the gist. That's the idea. And we're going to do just that. We're going to call lies lies on this show, and particularly when we're talking about Donald Trump. Okay, to me, Trump is a hyena howling at the moon. And speaking of howling at the moon, let's bring in my good friend Bob Pace. Bob is in the Iowa Blues Hall of Fame and the Iowa Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. We're going to be hearing a lot of his music on this show. It's great stuff, and it's free to me. This is a Bob Pace original from Live at the Blues on Grand with our friend Stevie George handling the vocals. Let's howl.
It's called Howl at the Moon.
Baby, you drive me crazy. Wanna take it down to my set. Run in the streets. Bring myself down away. I wanna howl at the moon. I wanna howl at the moon. Sit on my heels on the rock, girl, and howl at the moon. Oh yeah. Every time I get around you, it's like poison on my skin. You love to make me love your palm. I gotta know that I just can't win. I wanna howl at the moon. I wanna howl at the moon. Sit on my heels on the rock, girl, and howl at the moon. Feel like taking a shotgun, eating a business here. Loving you ain't getting me nowhere, girl, and I just can't be your friend. Wanna howl at the moon. I wanna howl at the moon. Sit on my heels on the rock, girl, and howl at the moon.
That any good? That's Howl at the Moon from the Live at Blues on Grand CD. Bob Pace, that's Bob on guitar on that song. Neil Stoffergen's on keyboards, Chandler Bowerman's on the drums, and Steve Charleston's playing bass. And of course, with those great Blues Hall of Fame vocals, Steve E. George. And just as an FYI, we're going to be hearing from Bob Pace in an upcoming podcast. We'll talk about his Hall of Fame music and a career that spanned over 4 decades. And believe me, that dude's got some stories. You don't want to miss it. So let's hit the road right now. We're going to take it out of here with our national travel forecast. And remember, don't think weather, think climate. The last Wednesday of August will produce big changes across much more of the U.S. with a late-season heat wave giving way to stormy and even autumn-like weather. The entire East Coast, Southeast, and the South will have to suffer through another late August hot day as high humidity and temperatures in the low 90s make it feel more like the upper 90s or even triple digits. However, a few late-day thunderstorms throughout the South, Southeast, and the Appalachians arriving ahead of a cold front could break the heat. However, damaging winds and frequent lightning will send activities indoors. Now, the Midwest, Ohio, and Mississippi valleys will deal with scattered showers and thunderstorms throughout the day as a slow-moving cold front tries to bring autumn's drier and cooler weather southward out of the upper Midwest. Even with the chance for showers and thunderstorms, though, temperatures will still be in the 80s. Everyone will be jealous of their friends living in the upper Midwest and northern plains. High temperatures will be in the upper 60s in the Minnesota Arrowhead and low to mid-70s throughout the rest of the Midwest and northern plains, although this is a reminder that autumn might be right around the corner. A sun-filled afternoon will give boaters a nice chance to hit the lakes and rivers there. In the southern plains, southwest, and the entire west, it will remain locked in the hot summertime pattern. Highs will be in the 90s in Texas, the southwest, southern Great Basin, and interior California, with triple-digit readings in the desert southwest, hello, Hot Springs, and Texas' lower Rio Grande Valley. The rest of the Mountain West and interior Pacific Northwest will be in the 80s, with only the immediate Pacific coast seeing highs in the 60s and 70s. Well, that's it. That's a wrap for this week's show. I want to invite everybody back to the next installment. Keep watching the feed to see when the next installment comes along. Looking forward to that show with our friend Bob Pace. And I'm hoping that you're starting to believe, after hearing a couple of these, that by George, I think he's got it. All the best.